I was sitting in the cab of my rig, in a deserted parking lot somewhere on the outskirts of town. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your area right now. Hopefully, those who subscribe to the channel will earn $10 million in 2026. Now we continue. I held that small digital recorder in my hands, but I couldn't bring myself to press play. My hands were shaking and a cold sweat was running down my back, even though it was over 80 outside. I knew that the moment I heard what was on that tape, my life would be split into two, the before and the after, and I wasn't wrong. What I heard that night erased 15 years of marriage, destroyed everything I believed in, and forced me to do something that only a week prior I wouldn't have even dared to imagine. My name is Marcus Errington, and I am 45 years old. I'm a long-haul trucker. I haul freight across the country, sometimes crossing the borders for international deliveries. The work is grueling, but it's honest, and it's how I provide for my family. I want to tell you a story I've hardly shared with anyone. Maybe someone out there will see themselves in my shoes. Maybe it'll help someone not to ignore the signs that I overlooked for far too long. By the way, where are you all listening from? What city? What state? Leave a comment if you don't mind. I'm always interested to know where our people are, where we're scattered across most this land. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if this story grips you. Let me start from the beginning. Candace and I met 15 years ago. Back in 2010, I was just starting out in the trucking business then. Before that, I was driving a small delivery van, dropping off merchandise to local shops. I was earning pennies, but I had big dreams. Candace was 25 and I was 30. We met the old-fashioned way through mutual friends at a birthday party. She worked as a receptionist at a high-end beauty salon. She was radiant, cheerful, and always put together. I was just a blue-collar worker with calloused hands, constantly exhausted. But for some reason, she noticed I am me. I remember thinking, what does she see in me? I'm no Prince Charming. But Candace told me she was tired of the arrogant guys in the neighborhood who only thought about themselves. She said she needed a reliable man she could lean on. And I believed her. Lord, how I believed her. We got married fast. Within 6 months of meeting, the wedding was modest, maybe 40 people in a small neighborhood restaurant. We didn't have much money, but we had the desire to build a life together. At first, we lived in a rented one-bedroom apartment. Later, I took out a loan, and we bought a 2-bedroom condo in an older building on the edge of the city. The place was dated, one of those brick complexes from the 70s, but it was ours. Candace fixed it up as best she could. We painted the walls and bought used but decent furniture through people we knew. A year later, our eldest daughter Isla was born. Lord, I still remember that day. I had just returned from a long haul. I ran into the hospital unshaven and looking a mess. Candace was lying there, pale but happy, and beside her in the bassinet was a tiny little bundle. I took my daughter in my arms and cried. I swear I cried like a baby. I thought, this is it. This is happiness. This is what all that hard work is for. 4 years later, our son Thomas arrived. The boy was huge. He weighed over 9 pounds at birth. By then, I was well established. I had moved on to long-haul routes and was making good money. I was able to buy Candace a used but reliable car so she could take the kids to daycare and the doctor. I drove an old truck myself, but I loved it. It was indestructible. Life went on. I would disappear on trips for 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes even a month. I hauled everything from construction materials to food. My routes took me everywhere. The capital, coastal cities, the industrial hubs of the north, the deep south. I even did one international run once. It was my longest route ever. The work was heavy, but I got used to it. I slept in the cab, ate at truck stops, showered wherever I could, but the money was steady. Candace, meanwhile, stayed with the kids. She left the salon after Isla was born. She said she wanted to dedicate herself entirely to the family. I was thrilled. I liked coming home to a wife knowing the kids were well cared for, the house was in order, and dinner was ready. That was my idea of the American dream, getting home and seeing that everything was right. Isla grew up to be a bright girl, getting straight A's and taking dance classes. I tried never to miss her recital, even if it meant racing back from a trip. I remember once I arrived at midnight from a distant city and went straight to her school performance the next morning. I sat there looking rough among all those polished moms, but I saw my Leela dance. Afterward, she ran to me, hugged me, and said, "Uni Daddy, I knew you'd come." My heart nearly burst. Thomas was the complete opposite. restless, a bit of a troublemaker, always getting into something. He'd get into scuffles at school, or drop things off the balcony, but at the same time, he was kind and generous. He could spend an hour petting a stray dog. I tried to give them both everything I could, toys, decent clothes, so they didn't feel less than anyone else. In the summer, I'd take them to the coast. The money was enough for all of that. Candace changed over the years. She became, how should I put it, more demanding. She started paying more attention to her looks. She went back to the beauty salon, but now, as a client, nails, lashes, hair, skin treatments. I didn't object. I worked hard and gave her the money. I figured it let her look good. She didn't enjoy it. She hired me at a high-end gym and started going 3 or 4 times a week. I was happy. My wife was taking care of herself. But about 2 years ago, I started noticing strange things. It wasn't all at once. It was gradual, and Candace became distant. Before, when I returned from a trip, she was always happy. She'd hug me, kiss me, and ask how the road was. But suddenly she started greeting me formally. Hey, how was it? You eating dinner? And that was it. No emotion. At first, I blamed it, fatigue. I thought it was hard being alone with the kids. I tried to help more around the house. I did the small repairs, took care of her car, and drove the kids to their activities when I had time off. But it didn't help. A wall had gone up between us. Then I noticed she started hiding her phone. She used to leave it on the table or the sofa without a second thought. But suddenly she started taking it everywhere, even into the bathroom. She slept with the phone under her pillow. Once I picked it up to look something up, and it had a passcode. I said, "Candace, why'd you put a lock on this? You never had one before." She answered indifferently, "It's for security. If I lose it, I don't want strangers snooping." Then there were those gym trips that lasted 3 or 4 hours. I understand working out, showering, and changing, but for hours. Once I asked her directly, "Candace, why does it take so long at the gym?" She looked at me with irritation and said, "Marcus, seriously, I train, I talk to my friends, I take a break from the house. Am I not allowed that anymore?" I backed off. I didn't want to fight. I thought maybe a woman just needs her space. I'm out on the road alone and free. She's home with the kids. Maybe she really just needed to vent. But then something happened that put me on high alert. I returned from a trip 2 days earlier than planned. I was supposed to be back on Saturday, but I made it on Thursday night. The cargo was unloaded faster than expected, and I decided not to stay at the depot, but to go straight home. I wanted to surprise them. I arrived around 9 at night. I pulled up to the house and saw that our car wasn't in the lot. I went up to the apartment, and only the kids were there. Isla and Thomas were in front of the TV watching cartoons. I said, "Hey kids, where's Mama?" Isla shrugged. "At the gym." I looked at the clock. 9 at night. "What gym? What time did she leave?" I asked. "Right after lunch," Thomas replied. That meant she had been out for 6 hours. The kids were alone. They hadn't even had a proper dinner. There was a bag of chips and a bottle of soda on the table. I made them something to eat, tucked them in, and waited. Candace didn't get back until nearly 11 o'clock. She walked in, saw me, and wasn't even that surprised. "Oh, you're back early," she said. I asked her, "Yeah, where were you?" "The kids were alone all night." She took off her jacket, hung it up, and said calmly, "I told you, the gym." Then I grabbed coffee with the girls. I needed some air. She said it with too much calm. I didn't cause a scene. I just nodded. But something clicked inside me. Her hair wasn't damp. Her makeup was perfect. And her outfit looked more like she'd been to an event than a workout. The next day, I asked Isla, "Honey, tell me, does Mama go out like that often?" My daughter thought about it. "Yeah, like 3 or 4 times a week, I guess. She says she's at the gym or with her friends. We're used to it." I stroked her hair and said, "I see, you're a good girl for watching your brother." But inside, my mind was racing. I'm not paranoid. I'm not the kind of man who spies on his wife or digs through her pockets. In 15 years, the thought never crossed my mind. But this wasn't right. I also noticed she started dressing differently. She used to wear sweatpants and old t-shirts around the house, but now she was dressing up even when she wasn't going out. She was buying expensive lace lingerie. Once I saw a tag, $90 for a set for the house for me. We barely had any intimacy anymore, maybe once a month, if that, and every time it felt like an obligation on her part. I started analyzing when it all began. It wasn't overnight. The first few years were great, excellent even. She really was a loving wife and a dedicated mother. But I remembered the changes started about a year and a half ago in the fall of 2023. Suddenly, she got obsessed with her image, joined the gym, went to a cosmetic dermatologist, and bought a whole new wardrobe. I thought it was just a midlife crisis, but now it was starting to look like something else. I decided to watch. On my next trip, I left as usual, 2 weeks, up to a northern city and back. The whole way I thought of nothing else. I called home every day. Candace was short and dry. Everything's fine. Kids are good. How are you? Formal conversations. No warmth. I returned in mid-November of last year, and that same night, I noticed something else strange. Candace said to me, "Marcus, I'm going to the city this weekend with a friend. Her niece is getting married, and she invited me. Can you stay with the kids?" I asked, "Which friend?" "Tanya," she said. Now, she did have a friend named Tanya. She'd known since high school, but she lived in the suburbs. Then she corrected herself. "No, I mean Laura. You don't know her. She just moved to the city." I didn't say anything. I just nodded. "Sure, I can stay." But I thought, who is Laura? I knew all her friends. There was never a Laura. The next morning, she left. She got ready fast, packed a small suitcase, and I walked her to the car. "When are you back?" I asked. "Sunday night. Don't miss me too much." She gave me a peck on the cheek, as formal as if I were her brother. I stayed with the kids. We had a good weekend. We went to the movies, ate out, walked in the park, but my head was spinning. I decided to check. Sunday night, when Candace was due back, I asked Ela, "Honey, do you know if Mama has a friend named Laura?" My daughter thought for a second. "Laura? No, Daddy, I don't know anyone by that name." "Why?" I lied and said I was just curious, but I felt my stomach tie in knots. She was lying about Laura, about the wedding, about everything. Where had she really gone? Candace returned around 10 that night. She looked rested and happy. I couldn't help it. I asked, "How was the trip? How was the wedding?" She started telling me about the banquet, the bride's dress, how much fun it was. She spoke with such ease, such confidence. She was a good actress. I'll give her that. I listened and thought, it's all a lie. Every word. After that weekend, I couldn't think of anything else. I knew something bad was happening, but I didn't know exactly what. An affair, most likely. But where, with whom, since when, and most importantly, why? I made good money. The house was full. The kids were well clothed. What was she missing? I started checking her things discreetly. The phone was still locked. I tried the kids' birthdays, our anniversary. Nothing worked. Her bag had nothing suspicious. The car seemed clean, too. I felt like an idiot snooping through my wife's personal belongings, but the uncertainty was tearing me apart. Then I remembered the recorder. I had an old digital voice recorder I used to use for recording conversations with clients, so there wouldn't be disputes over terms later. It was small combat and could record up to 8 hours straight. I thought, and yes, the idea was paranoid, but I couldn't live in peace anymore. I needed the truth, even if it broke my heart. I waited for the moment Candace left for the gym. It was a Tuesday in early December. She dressed up, did her makeup, and grabbed her bag. "I'm going. I'll be back in 3 hours," she said. I nodded. "Stay safe." I waited for her to leave the house. Then I went down to the parking lot. Her car was there. I looked around. Nobody was watching. I opened the door with my spare key. My heart was pounding like crazy. I got inside and looked around. Where to hide it? Under the driver's seat was too obvious. In the glove box, she might find it. I tucked it into the pocket behind the back seat where the kids kept napkins and small toys. I turned it on and slipped out of the car. Done. Now I just had to wait. I went back upstairs and couldn't sit still. I turned on the TV but couldn't watch. I picked up my phone but couldn't read. I just sat there thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if she really is at the gym? I'm going to have 3 hours of gym equipment, clanking and music, and I'll feel ashamed of my suspicions. 3.5 hours later, Candace returned. She walked in and threw her bag on the sofa. "I'm back. I'm exhausted. I'm going to shower." She went into the bathroom. I sat in the kitchen, gripping a mug of tea so hard my knuckles were white. Everything in me was trembling. I waited 20 minutes while she was in the shower. Then I said I was going out to get some bread. I went down to her car. My hands were shaking so much, I could barely get the key in the lock. I opened the door, reached into the back, and pulled the recorder out. I stopped the recording. I went back up. Candace was already out of the shower, sitting in the kitchen in her robe, drinking tea. "Did you forget the bread?" she asked, seeing my empty hands. "Store was closed." I lied. She shrugged and went back to her phone. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, wondering whether to listen then or wait. The recorder was in my pants pocket, hanging on the chair. It felt like it was burning through the fabric, radiating heat. I was terrified of what I'd find. In the morning, Candace woke the kids, gave them breakfast, and sent them to school. I pretended to still be asleep. She got ready and said she was going to the dermatologist. Finally, I was alone. I got up, washed my face, made a coffee, and sat at the kitchen table. I put on the headphones and pressed play. The first 10 minutes were just engine noise and the radio. Candace was driving alone, listening to music. Then the sound changed. She parked. Street noise. A door closed. You could hear her walking, the sound of heels on the pavement. Then silence. She probably entered a building. I fast-forwarded more silence. Occasionally muffled sounds, maybe gym music reaching the car. I started thinking this was all for nothing, but I kept listening. And suddenly, about 2 hours into the recording, I heard the car door open. Candace got in, but she wasn't alone. A man got in with her. I heard his voice, called out today, started up. The voice was unfamiliar, deep, confident, commanding. Candace answered, "Yeah, everything's fine. Let's go." She started the engine. They drove in silence for about 5 minutes. Then the man said, "Well, beautiful. Did you miss me?" Candace laughed, a light, flirty laugh I hadn't heard in years. "What do you think?" she replied. Then silence, just the hum of the engine. The car stopped. Candace said, "We're here. Let's go up quickly." Doors closed. The recording continued, but it was just the silence of the empty car. I sat there paralyzed. So, she wasn't at the gym. She was meeting someone, a man, and they went where? To his place, a rented apartment. I fast-forwarded again. About an hour and a half of silence passed. Then the doors closed again. The engine started. Candace drove off alone. I kept listening. She drove for about 20 minutes, then stopped. Then I heard something that sent a chill down my spine. The door opened again. The same man got back in. Candace said, "Just for a minute. I have to get home." He replied, "It'll be quick. I just want to talk about something." I sat motionless. They started talking, and what I heard next changed my life forever. The man said, "Look, I've been thinking, we can't keep going like this forever. Sooner or later, he's going to suspect something. Or, he already does." Candace replied tensely, "I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. He's always on the road. He doesn't have time for that." The man continued, "Exactly. While he's on the road. But what if he decides to watch you check your phone? Then what?" I listened, my heart thumping harder and harder. Candace was silent. Then she said softly, "What are you proposing?" "Divorce." The man said, "I thought about it, but then he'd keep the kids. The judge wouldn't give me anything. I don't work, and the condo is in his name." The man laughed mockingly. I could hear it in his voice. "No, beautiful. Not a divorce. There's a better way. You know, he has a large life insurance policy. $300,000. And if something happens to him, you get it all. The condo is yours, the money, the kids, and we can be together with no problems." I stopped breathing. This couldn't be happening. Candace remained silent. Then she asked in a whisper, "What do you mean?" The man replied calmly, in a businesslike tone, "And he's a trucker. Crashes happen all the time. Nobody will suspect a thing. Something can be put in his drink to make him fall asleep at the wheel, or something can be rigged with the truck. I have a contact who does clean work." My vision blurred. I ripped the headphones off and threw the recorder across the table. I stood up and walked to the window. My legs were shaking. My head was buzzing. This couldn't be real. My wife, the mother of my children, the woman I had lived with for 15 years, the woman I loved, she was discussing how to kill me. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. I tried to breathe inside. Everything was burning. Rage, pain, terror, all mixed together. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to destroy, but I couldn't. The kids would be home from school soon. Candace would be back in an hour. I had to think. I went back to the table and put the headphones back on. I had to finish listening. On the recording, Candace was saying, "I don't know. That's murder. They'll put me in jail." The man reassured her, "Nobody will prove anything. The important thing is to do it clean. I've got it all figured out. In a month or two, when he goes on another trip, we act. You give him the pills. I'll bring them to you. Tell him they're vitamins. He takes them in the morning before he leaves. In a couple of hours, he falls asleep at the wheel. The truck goes off the road. It'll look like a common accident. Dozens of those happen every day. Candace was silent again. Then she asked softly, "And if something goes wrong?" The man replied harshly, "Nothing will go wrong. I told you, I've got it under control. Just stay calm. Act natural like always. And in a couple of months, you'll be free and rich. We can live however we want without that." He used a slur. Me, the man who had worked like a dog for 15 years so that woman wouldn't want for anything. The man who loved her, who trusted her, and she was planning to kill me for money, to be with this miserable coward. The recording went on for another 10 minutes. They discussed the details, exactly when to do it, how she should act afterward when she got the news of my death, and Candace gradually gave in. By the end of the conversation, she was speaking with more confidence. "Fine, let's try it, but only if you're sure it'll be clean." The man assured her, "Trust me, it's not the first time I have done this kind of thing." Then he got out of the car. Candace sat in silence for another 5 minutes. Then she started the engine and drove home. On the way, she called someone and talked about nonsense. The dermatologist, a new cream, a normal conversation, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just discussed murdering her own husband. I turned off the recorder and sat with my head in my hands. What now? What do I do now? I sat in the kitchen and looked out the window. Outside, a light December drizzle was falling. People below were walking hurriedly, some with umbrellas, others just running from their porches to their cars. A common weekday, but my world was collapsing. I tried to order my thoughts. What did I know? Candace was cheating on me. That wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a fact. With a man, judging by his voice, around 40 years old, confident, used to giving orders, and most importantly, they were planning to kill me for the insurance. The insurance. I had indeed insured my life 3 years ago when I started the international long-haul routes. The company required it $300,000 in case of death. The beneficiary was my wife. At the time, I didn't even think twice about it. Of course, my wife. Who else? I thought it was just a formality what was going to happen to me. I'm a careful driver. I have plenty of experience, and now that insurance had become my death warrant. I stood up and paced the kitchen. I had to decide, and decide fast. Options. First, go to the police. But with what? A recording of a conversation. Yes, I had it, but they hadn't actually done anything yet. It was just talk. Any lawyer would say it could be a joke, a fantasy, whatever. Until there's an actual action, there's no crime. Second, confront Candace. Walk in and say, "I know everything. I heard it all." And then what? She'd be scared. But that man, her lover, he wouldn't be scared. He said it wasn't the first time he'd done this kind of thing. He was dangerous. If they realized I knew, they might speed things up, or find another way to get rid of me faster. Third run, just take the kids and leave. But where? To my mum's. She's lived alone since my dad died. There's space, but that wasn't a permanent solution. Candace would report me. She'd say I kidnapped the kids. They'd find me, bring them back, and what would I say? That my wife wanted to kill me. Based on what? I felt panic starting to set in. I stopped. I breathed deep. Stay calm, Marcus. Think. You're a grown man. You have 2 kids. You have to protect them and protect yourself. So the plan: first, make copies of the recording. Second, find out who that man is. Third, gather proof of their relationship. Fourth, at the right moment, take the kids and leave, and from a safe place to hand everything over to the police. I went to the computer, turned it on, and copied the file from the recorder to a USB drive, then another. I emailed the file to myself and uploaded it to the cloud. I wanted it in several places. The original recorder I hid in the garage in an old toolbox. Candace would never look there. Time was passing. The kids would be back from school soon. Candace had promised to be home by 3. I looked at the clock. 1:30. I had to control myself, act like always. Isla and Thomas returned around 3 o'clock. I fed them and they sat down to do their homework. I tried to help Thomas with his math, but my thoughts were elsewhere. My son was explaining fractions to me, and I was looking at him thinking, how am I going to tell them? How do I explain that their mother, Candace, arrived at 4 o'clock? She walked in and smiled at the kids. "Hey, my loves, how was school?" They both started talking at once. Who got an A? Who got into a fight at recess? A common family scene. Mum, dad, kids. warmth, home, and I looked at her and saw a stranger. I saw a woman who calmly discussed my murder, who had already planned how she'd live after my death with another man using my money. She came over and unseated me on the cheek. "Hey, why the serious face? You tired?" I forced a smile. "No, I'm good. Just thinking about the trip. I leave day after tomorrow." She nodded. "Where to this time?" "Nashville. A week round trip." "I see," she said, and went to the kitchen to start dinner. I watched her. A week. I had 1 week to prepare everything. That night, we ate dinner like a normal family. Candace talked about the dermatologist. The kids shared news from school. I nodded and replied, but inside I was boiling. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and scream, How can you sit there so calm and smile when you're planning to kill me?" But I stayed silent. I played my part because I had no choice. I didn't sleep that night either. Lying beside her, I wondered, when did this all start? When did I lose her? Or was she never who she seemed to be? Maybe for her, I was always just a convenient option, a hard-working husband who brought home money and didn't get in the way. I looked back over our 15 years searching for the signs I'd missed, and I found them. Lord, how many there were! Her irritation when I tried to hug her, the formal kisses, the excuses when I proposed spending a weekend together. "I'm tired and I have a headache. I'm not in the mood." And I thought it was normal that marriages have crises that you just had to endure. Idiot. I was a complete idiot. The next day, Thursday, I started moving. In the morning, I took the kids to school. Candace stayed home. She said she was going to clean. I deliberately stayed out longer. I talked to some other parents at the school. Then I called Candace. "Hey, I ran into an acquaintance. He's selling a car. I want to go take a look. I'll be a couple of hours." She answered indifferently. "Fine, go ahead." Instead, I went downtown. I needed to find out who that man was. I had a clue. His voice and his manner of speaking. A local businessman, not young, used to commanding. There weren't many of those in our town. I started by calling my friend Vance Thorthorne. We'd served in the military together. He'd stayed in town and opened a small security agency. He had contacts. He knew a lot about the local elite. We met at a coffee shop. Vance noticed immediately that something was wrong. "Marcus, what's up? Did something happen?" I hesitated. I didn't want to tell him everything, but I had no choice. I summarized it. "My wife is cheating on me. The lover is some businessman. I need to know who he is." Vance got serious. "I see. Look, do you know anything concrete? Name, what he looks like, where he works?" I shook my head. I only heard his voice, and he said it wasn't the first time he'd done this kind of thing. I didn't specify what thing. Vance thought for a moment. "A businessman with a shady past. We've got a few of those. But if he's also a womanizer..." Wait, he pulled out his phone and searched for something. "Look, here's a candidate. Victor Van Craftoft, 42 years old, owns a chain of car washes and auto shops. Used to be in some not-so-clean business. But he got out, went legit, a first-class womanizer. He's had 3 wives, now he's single, out on the prowl. Could be him." I felt my heart start beating faster. "You got a photo?" Vance showed me a social media picture. A man in his early 40s, athletic, tanned in an expensive suit with an arrogant smile. I didn't know if it was him or not, but something inside me said, "Yeah, that's him." "Where can he be found?" I asked. Vance shrugged. "Anywhere. He has an office on the main boulevard. He also likes the Blue Note Grill. He has a regular table there." "But Marcus, what are you thinking? Don't do anything stupid." I assured him I wasn't thinking anything. I just wanted to be sure. Vance looked at me with suspicion, but let me go. "All right, but be careful. Van Craftoft is no saint. If it's really him, he's dangerous to mess with. Better to just get a divorce and forget her." Divorce and forget her. If only it were that easy. I went to the main boulevard and found the office, a large building with a Van Craftoft Auto Group sign. I parked nearby and waited. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted to see him. I sat there for 2 hours. I was about to leave when suddenly the man from the photo walked out of the building. Victor Van Craftoft in person, tall, wearing an expensive jacket, talking on the phone. He got into a black Audi and drove off. I started my car and followed him, keeping my distance. Van Craftoft drove for about 15 minutes, then stopped in front of a gym, the same gym Candace supposedly went to. Everything inside me turned to ice. There he was. That's where they met. That's where it all started. I parked and kept watching. Van Craftoft went into the club. I looked at the time. 2:30. Candace didn't have a gym today. She was at home, but I knew with certainty that this was where they saw each other. I sat in the car thinking about the plan. I needed proof. The recording was good, but it wasn't enough. I needed photos, evidence of their relationship, so that later in court, or with the police, they couldn't wriggle out of it. The next 3 days I spent conducting surveillance. I pretended to be preparing for my trip, but in reality, I was following Candace and Van. I had an old camera with a good zoom lens. I'd bought it a long time ago to take photos of the kids at their school plays. Now it was serving a different purpose. On Friday, Candace went to the gym again. I followed her. Sure enough, she arrived at the club and parked. 5 minutes later, Van Craftoft arrived. They met in the parking lot and hugged. I took photos. Then they got into his car and drove off. I followed. They arrived at a building, some old apartments on the outskirts. They went inside. I waited. An hour and a half later, they came out. Candace looked happy, relaxed. He was saying something to her. She was laughing. I photographed it all. Then she got back in her car and went to pick up the kids from school like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just spent an hour and a half with her lover in a rented apartment. I had photos. I had recordings. I had proof. Now came the most important part, taking the kids and leaving. I decided to act Saturday night. Candace was going to visit her mother for the weekend. That's what she said. I didn't object. I told her I'd stay with the kids, that we'd go to the movies and have a good time. Saturday morning, she got ready and left. I was left with Isla and Thomas. We spent the whole day together. We went to the mall, to the movies. We ate pizza. I tried to cherish every minute. I looked at their happy faces and thought that soon their world would be turned upside down, too. But I had no choice. I had to protect them. That night, when the kids fell asleep, I started packing things quietly so as not to wake them. I packed their clothes, documents, toys, most importantly my documents, money, the USB drive with the recording. I put it all into a large suitcase and 2 backpacks. In near midnight, I awoke the kids. Isla opened her eyes. "Daddy, what's wrong?" I sat on the edge of the bed. "Honey, we have to leave right now." She looked at me, scared, and why? I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 12-year-old girl that her mother is planning to kill her father? I simply said, "Honey, trust me. I'll explain everything later, but right now we really have to go to Grandma's. Get dressed fast." I woke Thomas. He was sleepy and cranky. "Daddy, I want to sleep." "What, Grandma?" I said firmly. "Thomas, get dressed. It's important." Something in my voice made him obey. In 20 minutes, we were ready. I loaded the things into the car. The kid sat in the back, sleepy and frightened. Isla asked, "Daddy, does Mama know?" "She'll be worried." I lied. "Mama knows. I'll call her when we get there." We left the parking lot at 12:30 in the morning. The city was empty. I drove and kept looking in the rearview mirror. I was paranoid that we were being followed, but there was no one. My mom's town was about an 8-hour drive away. I put some cartoons on the tablet for the kids. Gradually, they calmed down. Thomas fell back asleep. Isla didn't sleep. She stared out the window. Then she asked softly, "Daddy, are we not coming back?" I didn't know what to answer. I said, "I don't know, honey. For now, I don't know." She nodded and turned back to the window. Smart girl, too smart for her 12 years. We drove all night. I didn't stop except once for gas. I was afraid Candace would realize sooner than expected. Even though she was at her mum's, she wasn't due back until Sunday night. But I was still afraid. We reached my mum's house early in the morning, around 7. The town was just waking up. My mum lived in an old neighborhood, in a 3-bedroom house. I rang the bell. My mum opened the door, surprised. "Son, what happened? Why so early?" I asked the kids to go into the living room. I told them I was going to talk to Grandma. When they were gone, I briefly told my mother everything. I showed her the recording and the photos. She listened, turning paler by the Swanson. Then she hugged me. "Son, Lord, how is it possible? I always thought Candace was a good woman." I laughed bitterly. "I thought so, too, Mama." My mum composed herself. "All right, you stay here. I'll keep you hidden." "What are you going to do now?" I replied. "I'm going to the police. I'm handing over the recording today. Let them handle it." Around 900 in the morning, I went to the local police headquarters. I asked at reception to speak with someone in command. They gave me the runaround. but finally they put me through to Captain Holloway, head of the Major Crimes Unit. Holloway was a man in his 50s with a tired face. He listened to me seriously. I showed him the recording and the photos and told him everything. He asked several questions about the details, taking notes. Then he said, "I understand this is serious. We're going to open a case, conduct an investigation, but you'll have to give an official statement, and we're taking the recording as evidence." I gave him the USB drive. "I have copies just in case." He nodded. "Good thinking. Look, where are you staying? Does your wife know?" I told him I was with my mum and that my wife didn't know. Holloway thought for a moment. "Good. Stay there. We'll coordinate with the police in your home city. They'll handle the arrest. This might take a few days. Don't call your wife. Don't have any contact with her. Better to just turn off your phone. If she tries to reach you, ignore it." I agreed. Holloway shook my hand. "Hang in there. You did the right thing coming to us. We don't let people like this get away." I left the station and felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I did it. I protected myself and the kids. Now all that was left was to wait. I went back to my mum's. The kids were awake. My mum was giving them breakfast. Isla asked again, "Daddy, when are we going home?" I sat down beside her. "Honey, I have to tell you something. You and Thomas. It's not going to be easy to hear." I told them, not everything. Of course, I didn't tell them about the murder plans. I just told them that Mama had cheated, that she had another man, that we were going to live separately now, and that I'd filed for divorce. Isla cried. Thomas didn't understand at first. Then he cried, too. They hugged me, asking, "Why? Why did Mama do that? Does she not love us anymore?" I stroked their heads, holding back my own tears. "Love you, yes, she loves you. It's just that adults sometimes make terrible mistakes. But we're going to get through this together. We're going to be okay." The phone started ringing incessantly. Be around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. "Candace." 20 calls in a row. Then, a message. "Where are you, Marcus? Answer me now. Where are the kids? I'm calling the police." I didn't answer. Then she started calling my mom. My mom didn't answer either. By Sunday night, the calls stopped. I thought she'd probably realized, or the police had already contacted her. Monday morning, Captain Holloway called me. "Mr. Errington, we have news. The police in your city have detained your wife and Victor Van. They're being interrogated now." Van Craftoft started talking immediately. He threw her under the bus. He says she started it all, that he only agreed to help. Classic story. I felt my hands start to shake. "So, they're arrested?" Holloway confirmed. "Yes, a criminal case has been opened for conspiracy to commit homicide. It's a serious charge, up to 10 years, maybe more if they prove aggravating factors. And they're a financial motive, organized group." I didn't know what to feel. Relief, triumph, pain, sworn all at once by. I said, "Thank you. Thank you so much." Holloway replied, "Don't mention it. It's our job. You'll still have to come in and testify, but that's for later. For now, rest." I hung up and sat on the tube. My mom came over and put her hand on my shoulder. "Well, son," I said softly, "they arrested them, both of them." She sighed. "They got what they deserved. The kids were playing in the other room. They didn't know their mother was in custody, that she'd been arrested for attempted murder." I thought about how to tell them, when to tell them. Should I even tell them? Over the next few days, the story broke. Local news reports appeared. Local businessman and accomplice arrested for plotting homicide. They didn't give names, but from the descriptions, it was obvious it was Van Craftoft and Candace. Candace's relatives called me, her mom and sister. They screamed that I'd made it all up, that I'd slandered her, that Candace could never have done that. I simply listened in silence and hung up. Let them think what they want. The police have the proof. A week later, the district attorney from my hometown called me. He asked me to come and testify. I went, leaving the kids with my mom. I gave my statement. I told everything again. I answered all the questions. The DA showed me the case files. There were my recordings, photos, and also Van Curift's statements. That lowlife was blaming everything on Candace. He said she'd seduced him, dragged him into those plans, that he loved her, and was willing to do anything. That she insisted on the murder, and he tried to talk her out of it. Pure lies. I heard the recording. He proposed it. He planned it all. But Candace was standing firm. She denied everything. She said there was an affair, yes, but the murder talk was just a joke, a game of imagination, that they never intended to actually do it. The DA told me, "Don't worry, we have the recording. Experts confirmed it's authentic. The voices are identified. This isn't a joke. It's the real planning of a crime. They're both going to prison." I nodded. I didn't care anymore. I just wanted it all to be over. I went back to my mum's. I told the kids that Mama had gone away for a long time, that we were getting divorced, and that for a while we'd live with Grandma, and later maybe move to another city. We'd start a new life. Isla asked, "Are we ever going to see Mama again?" I didn't know what to say. I said, "I don't know, honey." "Maybe," she cried. Thomas did too. I hugged them both, and the three of us just sat there crying. That night, when the kids were asleep, I went out onto the porch. I stood there, looking at the nightlights, thinking about how fast life can fall apart. Only a month ago, I had a family, a home, stability, and now I'm a refugee in my own town. The kids are traumatized. My wife is in jail. But we're alive. That's the important thing. We're alive, and we have a future. The phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I opened it, and my blood turned to ice. It said, "You think you won. Think again. We're going to find you and the kids, too." T2. I reread it several times. My hands went cold. It couldn't be Candice. She was in custody. So, Van Craftoft, but he was locked up, too. Or he had people on the outside. Immediately, I called Captain Holloway. He answered on the third ring with a sleepy voice. "Hello, this is Marcus Errington. I just got a threat." I read him the message. Holloway woke up instantly. "When just now, keep it. Don't delete it. I'm going to contact my colleagues in your city. It's probably Van Craftoft's people. He has connections in the underworld." "Mr. Errington, where are you now?" I told him I was at my mum's. Holloway said, "Good. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to organize protection. A patrol car will be there tomorrow morning. They'll be on guard outside. And don't let the kids out of the house for now. Don't take them to school. This is serious." I hung up and went back inside. My mum was sitting in the kitchen drinking tea. She saw my face and asked immediately, "What happened?" I showed her the message. She turned pale. "Lord Marcus, what are we going to do now?" I sat down across from her. "The captain says he's sending protection. They're going to watch the house. Mama, don't let the kids out of the house for any reason until this is cleared up." My mum nodded. "All right, but what about school? Isla and Thomas have already missed a week." I replied, "Mama, right now isn't the time for school. Their lives are more important." I didn't sleep all night. I sat in the darkness of the living room with a kitchen knife in my hand. I know it's silly. If professionals come, a knife won't do anything, but it made me feel a little more secure. In the morning around 9, there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole. 2 uniformed officers, police. I opened up. They introduced themselves as Officer Miller and Sergeant Reed. "We've been assigned to ensure your safety. We'll be on guard outside in shifts 24 hours a day. If you notice anything suspicious, call immediately." They gave me the precinct number. I thanked them. At least there was some peace of mind. The kids woke up. My mom gave them breakfast. Isla asked, "Daddy, why aren't we going to school?" I lied. "We're switching to another one while we process the paperwork." She nodded, but I saw she didn't believe me. Too smart. Thomas didn't care, as long as he didn't have to do homework. He played on his tablet and watched cartoons. I envied him. The childhood ability to distract oneself from problems. In the afternoon, the DA from my city called. "Mr. Errington, we have information on the threats. We traced the phone number. It's a burner bought with a fake name, but we located the signal. It came from your home city. It's definitely Vankarov's people. We've already started investigating. We're checking his known contacts, but you have to be careful. These people are serious." I asked, "What about Van Craftoft and Candice? Are they still in custody?" The DA confirmed, "Yes, they're in pre-trial detention. They won't be out until the trial, but Van Craftoft apparently had backup plans in case something went wrong. He's not the type to leave loose ends." I thanked him and hung up. I sat on the sea and put my head in my hands. I thought the nightmare was over, that I'd saved myself and the kids, but it turned out the danger hadn't gone away. It just changed shape. My mum sat beside me and hugged me. "Son, don't worry. We have protection. The police are working. Everything's going to be okay." I wanted to believe her, but inside I had a cold fear. The next 2 weeks passed in a tense wait. We almost never left the house. My mom had groceries delivered. I was afraid even to go near the window. The police watched the house, but that didn't provide much comfort. I knew that if they really wanted to get to us, 2 cops wouldn't stop them. The kids started asking questions. Isla asked directly one day, "Daddy, are we hiding from someone?" I couldn't lie. I sat her down and took her hand. "Honey, I'm going to tell you the truth, but you have to be strong and not scare Thomas." She nodded with a seriousness beyond her years. I told her everything about Mama and Van Craftoft, about their plans, that they were now in jail, but that Van Craftoft had people who might try to threaten us. Isla listened, turning paler by the second. Then she asked softly, "So, Mama wanted to kill you?" I nodded. She cried, "How could she have?" I hugged her and stroked her hair. "I don't know, honey. People sometimes do terrible things, but the important thing is that we're safe. And I'm going to do everything to protect you and Thomas." She leaned it against my shoulder and cried for a long time. I cried too, for our shattered lives, for the childhood that was stolen from her. In late December, the DA called with good news. "Mr. Errington, we caught the one who threatened you." It turned out to be Van Craftoft's cousin, Mike Van Craftoft, a petty criminal with a record for theft and extortion. "Victor asked him to scare you, but he wasn't planning anything more. Victor doesn't have the money from jail for anything serious. So, you can breathe easy. The threat is over." I felt warmth spread through my body. "Are you sure?" The DA confirmed. "Yes." Mike Van Craftoft confessed. "He gave up his cousin. He's going to get more time for the threats, and you're no longer in danger. You can go back to a normal life." Normal life? What normal life could there be after all this? I told my mum, then the kids. Layla sighed with relief. "So, we can go out now?" I nodded. "Yes, we can." Thomas shouted, "Yes, let's go to the movies." I laughed for the first time in a long while. "Let's go, son, let's go." Gradually, we began to rebuild. I enrolled the kids in the local school. Isla started middle school. Thomas was in 3rd grade. At first it was hard for them. New group, new teachers, but they adapted. Kids are surprisingly resilient. They adapt to any circumstance. I found work at a local transport company, also as a trucker, but with regional roots. I earned less than before, but I was home more often, 2 or 3 days on the road, then 2 days at home. I liked it. I could see the kids, help them with homework, spend time with them. My mum was happy to have us. She said that after my dad died, she'd felt lonely in the big house, and now it was full of life. Kids' voices, laughter, movement. She cooked, cleaned, and took the kids to their activities when I was on a trip. She became a second mother to them. We tried not to talk about Candice. The kids would sometimes ask, "Where's Mama?" I'd answer honestly, in prison for what she tried to do. They'd nod and not ask anything else. Thomas forgot faster. He was younger. Much of it faded for him. For him, normal life became life here with Grandma and Daddy. One winter evening, the 3 of us were sitting in the kitchen, me, Isla, and Thomas, drinking tea and eating Grandma's cookies. Isla suddenly asked, "Daddy, do you regret marrying Mama?" I thought about it, then I answered honestly, "You know, honey, if I hadn't married her, I wouldn't have you, too, and you're the best thing that ever happened to me. So, no, I don't regret it. Everything happened the way it had to." She smiled. "You're a good dad," Thomas added. The best. I hugged them both, and we just stayed like that, embracing my little battered family, but still alive. In February of 2025, the trial began. I was summoned to my hometown to testify. I left the kids with my mum and went. The trial was held in the regional courthouse. The room was full. Journalists, Candice's relatives, acquaintances. I sat in the witness room waiting my turn. They brought Candice in handcuffs, wearing a grey prison jumpsuit. She'd lost weight and looked 10 years older. She saw me and looked away. I looked at her and felt nothing. No pity, no anger, just emptiness. Van Craftoft was brought in separately. He looked more confident. Suit, styled hair. Apparently, his lawyers had done their job. He looked at me, too. In his eyes was hatred. I held his gaze. He was the first to look away. I was called to the stand. I gave my testimony. I told everything I had seen and heard. The judge asked questions. The DA clarified details. Candice's lawyer tried to catch me in contradictions, but there were none. I told the truth. Nothing but the truth. When they played the recording, the one from the recorder, the room went silent. You could hear every word. How Van Craftoft proposed killing me. How Candice agreed. How they discussed the details. Some women in the room cried. Candice's mother sat with a face of stone. After the recording, the judge declared a recess. Candace asked to speak. The judge granted it. She stood up and looked at me, her voice trembling. "Marcus, forgive me. I don't know what happened to me. It was like a spell. I loved you. I really did. But then Victor appeared. He promised me a different life, a rich one, and I gave in. Please forgive me." I looked at her, waiting to feel something, but nothing, just exhaustion. I stood up and said, Candace, I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine, so I don't have to carry that hate. But I will never forget, and the kids will never forget. She cried. Van Kraftoff snorted. What a drama. His lawyer hushed him, but it was too late. The judge noted it in the record. The trial lasted 3 days. In the end, the verdict was this. Van Kraftoff, 12 years in a high-security prison. Candace, 10 years in a state penitentiary. Additionally, they were both barred from certain activities and ordered to pay compensation for emotional distress. When the judge read the verdict, Candace fainted. They took her away. Van Kraftoff received the sentence calmly. Apparently, he'd expected it. I sat in the courtroom thinking, that's it. It's over. They got what they deserved. Candace's mother came up to me after the trial. An older woman, about 65. She said softly, Marcus, I don't justify her. She did something terrible, but she's the mother of my grandkids. Are you going to let them see her at least once? I thought about it. Then I answered, Mrs. Glattis, I can't decide for the kids. Isla is 12. If she wants to, I won't object, but I'm not going to force her. It's her decision. She nodded with tears in her eyes. Thank you. You're a good man, Marcus. You always were. And she left. I went back to my mum's. I told the kids the verdict. Isla asked, is she going to be in there for a long time? I answered, 10 years. Maybe she'd get out early for good behavior. Isla thought for a second. I'll be 22. I'll be an adult. I nodded. Yes, you'll be an adult. Then she asked, Daddy, can I write her a letter? Not now. Later, someday. I hugged her. Of course you can, whenever you want. Life gradually took its course. I worked. The kids studied. On weekends, we went to the park, the movies, or out to eat. I taught Ela to drive. She was old enough to understand the basics. Thomas joined a soccer team and enrolled in a sports academy. My mom took care of the small garden my dad had started years ago. In April, a woman called me out of the blue. She introduced herself as a counselor at the prison where Candace was held. She said, Mr. Errington, Candace is asking for permission to write to the kids. According to prison rules, she can send letters to relatives, but only with your consent. Do you object? I thought about it. Then I said, I'll ask the kids. If they don't object, let her write. The counselor thanked me and asked to pass on the message that Candace was in a rehabilitation program. She was working with a psychologist and regretted what she'd done. I answered coldly, good for her, and hung up. I asked Isla she thought about it and agreed. Let her write. I'll read it. I didn't ask Thomas. He was too young. He didn't quite understand. 2 weeks later, a long letter arrived, 4 pages, in a notebook. Candace wrote how much shame she felt, how much she regretted what she'd done, that she loved the kids more than anything in the world, and that she wasn't asking for forgiveness because she knew she didn't deserve it. She just wanted them to know that Mama thought of them every day. Isla read the letter and cried. Then she said, Daddy, I want to answer her. I didn't try to convince her otherwise. She sat down and wrote a short 1-page response that she loved her, but was very hurt, that she didn't know if she could ever forgive her, and that maybe when she grew up, they would see each other. But she wasn't promising anything. I sent the letter. Candace responded again a month later, then another a month after that. Gradually, a correspondence was established between them. Isla told her about school, her friend's life. Candace would respond, give advice, ask about details. I didn't interfere. It was their connection, their relationship. I didn't have the right to break it. Thomas didn't want to write to his mum for now. He said, I'm mad at her. She wanted to kill my daddy. I didn't insist. The time will come. He'll decide. The months passed. Summer, fall, winter. A year had passed since the arrest, then another. Life continued. The kids grew. Isla got a boyfriend, a classmate. Daniel, a good boy. She brought him to the house and introduced him to me. I talked to him and warned him, if you hurt my daughter, it's going to go very badly for you. He nodded, terrified. Thomas grew, shot up, and looked more like me every day, just as stubborn, just as direct. He played soccer, and dreamed of being a professional. I took him to local team matches. We cheered together. My mom aged. She was over 70 now, but kept herself well. She cooked, cleaned, and helped with the kids. She said it was her happiness to live in a full house. I changed, too. I became calmer, wiser. I was no longer in a hurry to live. I learned to value the simple things. The morning coffee, the kids' laughter, a quiet night on the porch. There were no other women. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never will be. Or maybe the time just hadn't come. Sometimes at night, I thought about Candace. What had gone wrong? The exact moment I lost her. Or if she was ever who she seemed to be. I didn't know, and I had stopped trying to understand. I simply accepted it as a fact. She chose her path. I chose mine. In March of 2027, more than 2 years after the arrest, the prison counselor called me again. She said Candace had applied for early parole. She had good behavior, was working and studying, and was in rehabilitation. There was a chance she could be released early. They asked if I would object. I thought about it long and hard. Then I said, "Bah, no, I don't object. If the board decides she's rehabilitated, let them release her. It's not my business." The counselor was surprised. "You're very generous, Mr. Errington." I smiled ironically. "I'm just tired of hating." The board reviewed Candace's case and denied the parole. They said it was too soon. She had to serve at least half her sentence, minimum 3 more years. Isla was saddened when she heard. She said, "Maybe she really changed. Maybe they should have let her out." I answered, "Honey, the law is the law. She committed a serious crime. She has to serve her punishment. But if she really changed, she'll still have a chance." That same year, Isla turned 15. She had become quite the adult. Tall, beautiful, smart. She was getting nothing but good grades. She dreamed of going into medicine. She wanted to be a doctor. I was proud of her. She'd been through so much, but she hadn't broken. Thomas was 11, restless, cheerful, kind. It seemed that he'd been the least affected. He was so small. Much had been forgotten. For him, normal life was life here with Grandma and Daddy. 2 more years passed. In June of 2030, Candace was released on parole. She'd served 5 years of her 10. Her mother sent me a message asking if I would object to Candace coming to see the kids. I asked Isla. She was 17 now, finishing high school. She thought about it and agreed. "I want to see her. I want to see if she changed." I asked Thomas. He was 13. He shrugged. "I don't care if Isla wants her to come." We agreed to meet in a neutral place, a cafe downtown. I arrived with the kids. Candace was already waiting. I hardly recognized her. She'd lost weight and aged 10 years. Gray hair, no makeup, simple clothes. She saw the kids and cried. Isla went up first. They hugged. Both were crying. Candace stroked her head, whispering, "Forgive me, honey, forgive me." Isla pulled away and wiped her tears. "I don't know how to forgive you, but I want to try." Thomas stayed to one side, uncertain. Candace went over to him and knelt down. "Thomas, look how you've grown. You're a man now." He nodded silently. She didn't insist on hugging him. She simply said softly, "I understand you're mad at me. It's normal. I deserve it." I stayed apart, observing. Candace came over to me. "Marcus, thank you for allowing this meeting." I nodded. They have a right to know their mother even like this. She winced at my words, but said nothing. We sat in the cafe for about an hour. Candace talked about life in prison, how she worked in a sewing shop, how she studied accounting remotely, how every day she woke up thinking of the kids. The kids listened to ask you questions. I stayed silent. When we said goodbye, Isla said, "Mama, I'm glad you're out. Maybe we'll talk once in a while." Candace nodded radiantly. "Of course, honey. Thank you," Thomas murmured, and went to the car. We left. At home, Isla asked, "Daddy, what do you think? Did she really change?" I answered honestly, "I don't know, honey. Time will tell. But I hope so. For your sake, I hope so." Since then, another year and a half has passed. Now, it's late 2031. Isla entered medical school. She's in her first year. Thomas is 14. He's in 8th grade. They talk to Candace maybe once a month. She lives back in our hometown. She works as an accountant in a small firm. She's trying to rebuild her life. We see each other rarely, maybe every 6 months, no more. I don't object, but I don't feel any closeness either. To me, she's a stranger who once wanted to kill me. The kids decide for themselves what kind of relationship to build with her. I still live here. I still work as a trucker. My mom is doing well. She still helps with the kids. I sold the condo in my old city. Too many bad memories there. With that money, I bought a larger 3-bedroom house here and fixed it up. Everyone has their own room. Sometimes when I'm driving down the highway in the quiet of the night, I think about what happened and I understand. I was lucky. Lucky to have turned on that recorder. Lucky to have heard the truth in time. Lucky to have managed to take the kids and disappear. It could have been different. I could be in a grave right now and Candice would be living on my insurance money, with a Van Kraftoft raising my kids. How would they have ever known the truth? Would they have even known it? I've lived 47 years, and I have learned one simple thing. Trust is the most important part of a relationship. Without trust, there is no love, no family, no nothing. And if you feel something is wrong, don't close your eyes. Don't wait for it to pass. Find out. Know the truth, even if it hits you hard. I saved myself and my children because I wasn't afraid to know the truth. Yes, it was a terrible truth. Yes, it destroyed my life, but it also saved it. Please take care of your loved ones, but take care of yourselves, too. If you feel something isn't right, don't ignore that feeling. Intuition rarely lies. It's better to know a terrible truth than to live in a dangerous lie. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you wanted to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch. Subscribe to Astral Vengeance. Thank you, family.